Awesome. Nau mai, haere mai, kia koutou katoa ki tēnei pāhotanga mata ora pukamata I tēnei ahi. Ko Rose Haskell, tōku ingoa, ko au te kairuruku rātonga hapore, mō te rohe, kai roto I te rohe o Taranaki. Welcome everyone to another episode of Live Chat, where whānau āwhina Plunket aims to share practical parenting information online. My name is Rose Haskell and I am the Community Services Coordinator for the Taranaki region here at whānau āwhina Plunket. This morning, we observed the New Zealand ShakeOut, our national earthquake drill and tsunami hikoi. We hope that you all joined the whole country in practicing how to drop, cover and hold. And for those of you living in coastal areas, we hope that your tsunami hikoi practice went well. Now, to talk to us about the significance of this annual Aotearoa wide event and to answer some of our questions to help our whānau prepare for different kinds of emergency situations, we have with us today Jay Sutherland from the Hawke's Bay Civil Defence Emergency Management Group and Peter Gallagher from Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Tēnā kōrua, thanks for joining us today. I'd quickly like to welcome you to introduce yourselves to our audience, please starting with you, Jay.
Kia ora ngā mihi Rose, kia ora koutou, ngā mihi tino mahana kia koutou katoa. Ko Jay Sutherland tōku ingoa. I am the team leader for the community engagement team in Hawke's Bay. Civil Defence has got 16 groups around the motu, and so I'm based over in the East Coast where we do have a significant earthquake and tsunami risk. But it is shared by every group around the country. So I'm here to kind of talk through what it means wherever you live, to live in the Shaky Isles.
Cool, thank you, Jay and Peter. Hello.
Yes, hello, kia ora everybody. I'm Pete Gallagher. I'm the National Advisor on Fire Risk to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and the Chief Advisor to the National Commander. Obviously, fire is a big risk to everyone, no matter where they live in any part of the world, but particularly in New Zealand. So today we're going to talk about some of those risks associated with fire hazards in the home.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you both so much for telling us a little bit about yourselves and your work. Kia ora to Juliet and Lisa. Nice to have you with us this evening. Thank you for joining us. And to you, Jay and Peter, it is such a pleasure to have join us this afternoon. So tonight, as I said before, this is our live chat on emergency preparedness with Jay from CDEM and Peter from FENZ. I want to remind you all, the viewers, that if you have any pārtai, any questions, please feel free to type them into the comments section and we will try to answer them along the way. So let's get into it. We understand that the annual ShakeOut, key event that upholds emergency preparedness in New Zealand. Now, Jay, can you share with us what emergency preparedness is and what does it mean for our whānau?
Yeah, sure. I mean, today, obviously, we highlight earthquakes. And fantastic, we had over 660,000 people around New Zealand sign up for ShakeOut, so a really good response throughout the country. Emergencies, of course, cover a range of things. So earthquake is a very common risk in Aotearoa, which could lead to a tsunami, which really important that people understand that if they're in a tsunami zone, that they know what to do. So that's that long, strong, get gone messaging. And we have the drop, cover, hold for the earthquake. So we have those kind of key messages that drop, cover, hold for an earthquake and long or strong, get gone if you're in the tsunami zone. So I think understanding the hazards is really important and knowing what the impact is key. So it may mean that you have to evacuate. What does that mean? What do you need to bring with you when you're evacuating? Where are you going? What about your children if they are with a caregiver or a grandparent? How are you going to communicate? Do you know what they're going to do with your child? It is also about being prepared if you're stuck at your home. So we've had COVID, we've got very used to being stuck at home, but imagine there's been an emergency and there's no electricity and the shops can't operate without FPOS and literally the shops are shut. Do you have enough in your cupboards to get through for a few days? Do you have neighbours around that you can share food, share things with? Having no water, another key thing to manage. Having some water stored in a garage, in a dark place, and Peter and Fins and Civil Defence work really closely together. When you check your fire alarms with the daylight saving changes, check your water as well. Just give it a fresh up and forget about it. It's there if you need it. If you know your neighbour is probably the best thing to be an emergency. So that's the key things is knowing your neighbour, knowing what to do if you have to evacuate, knowing what to do if you're stuck at home.
Fantastic, thank you. And just a comment from Kellyanne, she says, tēnā koutou, thank you for sharing such an important kaupapa for whānau across Aotearoa. Thank you, Kellyanne, for your comment. So next question here, how can families with young children at home better prepare for emergencies there, Jay? What are things that they should take into consideration and do?
So I think, one of the key things is around younger children dehydrating easier than us adults, being smaller and, a bit more fragile, they're robust in their own ways, but making sure you do have water stored is really key. I think I used to live in a tsunami zone when I had young babies, and our evacuation was to my sister's house. So I used to actually keep a box in her garage tucked away. So if we were evacuating from our house, yes, I had a grab bag I would take with me, but I knew that there was nappies, there was some formula in a bottle, and there was, stuff that we might need where we were heading to. I was a breastfeeding mum, but on the chance that something happened to me and I couldn't get to be where I needed to be, and my children, my babies were with someone else, that they had some formula in a bottle was really important to me. So it's being mindful that what is it that your children need. And if we were evacuating to doesn't have nappies and things like that, then having some stored there or having some in a bag to take with you is really important. I think being reassuring with children is really key. Telling them honestly what can happen, but being mindful that adults are there to help them. This morning we went to Hastings Central School across the road from where we actually work, and we talked with a class of 5-year-olds. So, they're 5, they've started school now, they're getting bigger. But we just reassured them that there are adults to help them. There are teachers there at home. They've got people they can call out for if they're scared and something that something's happening, they don't know what to do. That there are adults around. But I think not giving them information doesn't help them either. So it's okay for children to know that earthquakes happen. It's okay for children to know, it's important that they know after a big earthquake, you might be evacuating. You don't want to spring it onto them. You want it to be something that they know is normal. You want to practice your tsunami evacuation with your children. It may be that you don't want to do the whole walk if it's quite a long way, but maybe you're just going to walk 3 or 4 blocks and have a chat and say, if there was a big earthquake and we had to evacuate, well, we'd walk this way. Let's go for a bit of a walk now, and just sow some seeds into their mind about what it might mean if you're going to be evacuating. So I think the other consideration is sometimes our children are with other people. If they're in a early childhood, a kohanga, at a play group, and you're not there, what is the plan for where they are? Really important that you know what they are going to do with your children. And if you're leaving your children in those settings, making sure there's multiple safe adults that are on the list of able to pick up your child, just in case you can't get there, but your neighbour or your sister or a good friend is on the list and is able to go and help by collecting your child for you.
Yeah, nice. Those are excellent points, great ideas, and something a lot of us don't think about, that emergency preparedness is a lot more than water and supplies. So thank you so much for those.
Yeah,
we're talking about emergency preparedness. So
I just want to say, when it comes to the tsunami evacuation, really want to press home to know what if your school, if the kohanga is in a tsunami zone, that you know that and you know where they're going to go. Because what we don't want parents going to collect children from within a tsunami zone. We don't want parents walking towards the danger and putting themselves at risk when their children have been evacuated to somewhere safe. So really key to know that that's going to happen. Oh, Peter, it looks like it's just me and you. Rose has dropped off.
Yes. Yeah. And look, I think what we've been talking about, Jay's, it is really, really important, to have a plan, having a plan in mind for the whānau, for everyone, and that everyone knows what that plan is, be it for an earthquake, be it for a tsunami, be it for a fire in your house. It's really important to have a plan and for everyone to know what that plan is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think communicating your plan and making it with other people is something we often talk about. There's no point mum and dad sitting there making a plan and the children don't know what the plan is. So, it's really important that, like you say, the plan's not just for the adults, but for everybody, and everybody's part of that conversation. So,
nice. Thank you for bearing with me while I got kicked out. But now I'm back. So let's get into our next question. When talking about emergency preparedness, we often hear that it is essential to prepare a grab bag. Can you tell us more about what a grab bag is and what key items should be in there when you're putting one together for a family that includes a pepe or a young child?
Yeah, sure. So grab bags are like it sounds. It's a bag you can grab and take with you. I actually keep my grab bag in my car because I figure my car is usually where I am. If I'm in town, my car's parked nearby. If I'm at home, it's there. If I'm at work, it's there. So I keep my grab bag in my car. But it's good in the garage. It's good under your desk at work if you're at work and you've got children off at kohanga and you're at work. Have a grab bag under your desk. So it just means that you've got some essential things to get you through basically like 24 hours. We're not sort of suggesting that you can carry enough for 3 days. At home, prepare for 3 days because that's how long it might take for shops to reopen or people to get there to help you. But if you're going to evacuate, if you can just grab enough for 24 hours, then you've got enough to just mean you can get where you're getting to and you've got some dry clothes and you've got a little bit of food. So for everybody, a change of clothes, a bottle of water. I say ginger nuts are always good, but muesli bars, raisins, just some high energy snacks, and a small first aid kit if you can fit that in. I think that as we say, a sun hat or a beanie, you might be out in the elements. You need to be able to keep yourself warm and have something warm to get into. For children, I think that the basic nappies, snacks, kind of what you put in your bag that you take with you if you're going out with your children probably has got what you need. You hopefully already have sort of got yourself some stuff that you're going to grab when you go out to the supermarket and you've got your children with you. So you're probably already well more prepared than other people without children. But also thinking about the children's, I guess, emotional well-being. Is there like a teddy you could put in there? Are they a child who likes to play with cars? Is there like a book that you could put in there if that's what your children like? Just thinking we might be stuck somewhere waiting in an unfamiliar place. What would my child like to have them feel that sense of comfort? Another consideration that is really important to children often is pets. So if you're evacuating and you have pets, if practical, it's really good to have a plan for how you might take your pets with you. So we do say for a tsunami, if you're evacuating, it likely will need to be on foot, depending on where you live, but there is a high chance that there will be traffic congestion and a high chance that there may be liquefaction in lots of areas in New Zealand built on river plains. You may well be on foot. So having a lead so that you can grab your dog and take your dog with you, it's going to keep your children happier as well. Of course, at the end of the day, if it's not practical and animals behave in all sorts of ways during storms and earthquakes, if they've taken off, and that's fine, you get you and your kids to safety. But if you can, then that's going to be quite meaningful for your children to have the animals thought about as well. If not, to reassure them, animals look after themselves very, very well. They will disappear, run off to somewhere safe, and you'll find them later on.
Yeah, good consideration about the home pets. And you're making some really awesome points around normalising the emergency preparedness process, as well as incorporating home comforts if it ever comes down to it. And the pets, definitely can't forget about the pets.
I think one of the other things that we recommend
for those of you who have,
Oh, just saying, when you're traveling in winter, great to make sure you've got a grey bag in your car. We've had people stuck in snow that have been evacuated by the police because suddenly, things have changed and it started snowing and they didn't realise, and they start sliding around the road. The police rescue them. They can't you can take a grey bag with you. If you break down or you come across an accident, you've got your grey bag with you. So it is a really, really practical thing for more than just civil defence emergencies, but for everyday emergencies, it can be handy to have a bag that's got change of clothes in it. So.
Excellent tip. Thank you, Jay. So for those of you who have just tuned in, and I see a comment on my screen from Matt. Hi, Matt. If you have any questions, any partai, please don't forget to pop them in the comments and we'll get them answered. Confirming for those of you who have just joined us, my name is Rose Haskell. I'm a community coordinator for the Taranaki region here at Whānau-a-Whina Plunket, and I'm joined by Jay Sutherland from the Hawke Space Civil Defence Emergency Management Group and Peter Gallagher from Fire and Emergency New Zealand. Jay and Peter are here to talk to us about the significance of the annual New Zealand Aotearoa New Zealand ShakeOut and answer some of our questions to help our whānau prepare for different kinds of emergency situations. So once again, if you do have any partai, any questions, please pop them in the comments and we will endeavour to answer them before our time is up. Now, let's talk about another potential emergency situation that many of our whānau are concerned about, a house fire. Peter, are you able to talk to us about the most common causes of house fires here in Aotearoa and how these can be prevented?
Yes, look, every year we go to literally thousands of house fires, around about 5,000 a year across Aotearoa. And almost 30% of those fires occur as a result of failing to keep looking when you're cooking. Fires start in kitchens, and they start for a variety of reasons. People get distracted. And it's those distractions that we need to make people aware of so they become conscious that they're being distracted. Now, one of those distractions, unfortunately, is young children. Those of us with kids, we all know that they always want your attention when you can't give it to them. And when you've got lots of time, they don't want to know about you. But it's sort of trying to make sure that when it's time, you're cooking tea, that's when your focus is on what you're cooking. It's not on dealing with the other crisis that's going on in the house. And if you have to deal with that, just reach up and turn the stove off. My role within fire and emergency, I've spent the best part of the last 25 years as a fire investigator. So I've attended many hundreds of fires to determine what's gone on and what's caused the fire. And more often than not, the comment I hear from people is that they can't believe how fast the fire spread through their house. And so what Jay's talking about being prepared is really, really important for a fire as well, making sure you've got some preparation, because when the fire occurs, you don't have time to think about what to do. And so that emergency preparedness, when you're talking about fire, it's about having a plan for getting people out of the house, making sure the kids know that they go to the letterbox or your safe meeting place so that you're not running around in the blinding and choking smoke trying to figure out where the children are. They will have got out and they'll be already waiting at that meeting place. Likewise with animals. Yeah. It's very rare in my time that I've seen animals die in house fires. Normally, the animals are well gone. The window breaks and they're off. They might not come back for 3 days, but they do come back. So don't worry about your animals. Concentrate on getting the people out. Make sure the little ones know what the plan is. Make it fun. Have a drill every 6 months, bit of a test. Let's, we're going to pretend something's gone wrong in the house. Kids, come on, let's get to the letterbox. Those sorts of things. Make it a bit of a game so that it becomes a common practice.
Cool. Thank you for that. It is our hope that none of our whānau would experience this. But in case of an actual house fire, what are the key things that they should do to keep safe? And I know you touched on a few of those just now, but is there anything else that you might like to add in terms of key things that our whānau can do to keep safe?
Look, the most important thing is having a smoke alarm. You have to have some early warning. One of the interesting things about human beings is when we sleep, we lose our sense of smell. So we don't know that a fire is developing. So the only thing that will alert you when you're sleeping is a smoke alarm. Now, we touched on animals before. Animals retain their sense of smell. They know about a fire long before we do, and normally they make their way out. But we don't know until something wakes us up. So it's absolutely imperative you have a smoke alarm. And to drive that home, the need for a smoke alarm isn't just one alarm in the house. It's a need to have a smoke alarm in every room, every bedroom, and in the hallway, so that if there's smoke in the hallway, everyone knows that the hallway is affected and they have to find another way out, perhaps out through a window and around to their meeting place. Now, that was brought home to me by a fatal house fire I went to a few years ago. And the children were staying with their aunt. And the aunt thought she'd done everything right. And she had the children playing in one of the bedrooms and was at the other end of the house when a fire occurred. And because there was no smoke alarm in the bedroom, she didn't know that the bedroom was on fire with the two young kiddies in it. And as a result, they perished in the fire before we got a chance to intervene. So it's really, really important that you've got that early warning throughout the house. Looks like we've lost Rose again. No, she's just come back.
Come back. I don't know. I know, Pete, for us, one of the things that we say it's really, really helpful is to know your neighbours. And I'd imagine for a house fire, it's important as well. If, should the worst happen and your house has caught fire and everyone's got out, which is great, and you're at your letterbox, to have like neighbours around that I'm sure makes a big difference in how you get through that initial stage of that emergency, plus any emergency. So I don't know if that's your, thinking as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's something that New Zealanders over the last probably 20 years have sort of lost a little bit. We don't know our neighbours as well as perhaps we used to. And it's something that, as you say, in an emergency, really, really important. Yeah.
So I think that, having that sense of community is, it's good for our kids' everyday lives, but in an emergency, it really is where it kicks in to have you, do well and get through things. So.
Yeah. And look, even having that grab bag by the door, if you've got time, middle of the night, fire alarm wakes you, everyone makes their way out, someone grabs that grab bag, you've got the clothing that you might need or a little bit of food to tide you over for the next 3 or 4 hours, and perhaps some of those calming things for children as well, just to de-stress the situation, because it is quite a horrible event to go through, watching possessions burn in front of you.
Okay. One moment. Sure, we've got Rose back on. Good, Rose.
We've just been ad-libbing while you've been gone, Rose. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. Many technical difficulties. Let's blame it on the stink weather here in Taranaki. Sorry, everyone. Many technical difficulties. Let's blame it on the stink weather. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry about that.
We can. Yep, you're back.
All right. Now, Peter, we just talked about key things that whānau can do to keep safe in the case of an actual house fire. And we understand the importance of having an escape plan at home and how important it is to map out how whānau can get safely somewhere quickly in the event of a fire. So what are the key things that whānau should consider while putting an escape plan together?
Look, It's very easy to think that an escape plan is that you're just going to make your way to the front door and walk outside. But that's not the case. I mean, a real house fire, the smoke attaches to your eyes, the black soot actually covers your eyelids so you can't see. It's a choking smoke, so you're coughing, your eyes are watering because of that smoke. You've got to have a plan that you know how to get out. And it's simple things that you don't think about that can put that plan at risk. And that's things like having the wheelie bin beside the front door, pulling it up on the porch because the weather might be bad. If a fire occurs and you go to push open that door and you're pushing against the wheelie bin, it's going to slow you down. You're not going to make your way out. Bicycles in hallways is another key one. We see it a lot with apartment buildings where people bring their bicycle in and put it in the hallway just inside the front door. In the event of a fire in the middle of the night, you're going to trip over that, or somebody's going to be injured climbing out. Excuse me. So it's really important to think about those other ways out of the house. You should have 2 exits. So it's not only the front door, it's if the front door's blocked, what's my other alternative? Can I go out another way? Do I have to break a window and climb out? All those things are part of that plan for what to do in an emergency, because the reality is you've probably got about 30 seconds to make the right decisions to get out uninjured from a fire.
Yeah. Wow, that's fast. It's really surreal to think about the reality of how fast a fire takes hold. 30 seconds is not long at all. And we hear what you're saying. With all of those tripping hazards in the way, that just makes the escape even more ghastly. So excellent points. Thank you. Nice. So this is a super informative discussion, Jay, Peter. Sadly, we're running out of time, so we do need to start wrapping it up, unfortunately. But before we do, Jay and Peter, do you have any final words of advice, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our viewers this evening?
Look, the key things to remember is you've got to have that warning. You've got to have that smoke alarm to give you the early warning. And you've got to have a plan to get out. And of course, once people are out of the house, don't go back. Just never go back. Every year we lose 1 or 2 lives from people going back. I've seen them perish in fires going back to save a guitar. It's just not worth your life to risk going back into the fire.
Now, sorry, I'll just stop it there because I've just seen one more question come through for you, Peter. It's from Kellyanne, who wants to know, are electric blankets safe?
Electric blankets are getting better and better, and there are more safety features than there ever used to be. But there are still some key things with electric blankets. If you're going to store them, don't fold them. Roll them up. If you fold them, you break the little wires inside, and that can cause problems. You should also take advantage of some of the free testing that's offered each year. So take your electric blanket down to a local electrician or perhaps to the fire and emergency station. And often we have these free electric blanket tests where you can get that blanket tested and checked to make sure it's safe before you bring it out for the winter months.
Cool. Thank you for that. And Jay, before we wrap up, do you have any extra words of advice, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our viewers before we finish up this evening?
I think knowing your neighbours, having a plan for your family, and knowing what your kids' plan is if they're at kindergarten or kohanga is really, really important. And long or strong, get gone. If it's a big earthquake, drop, cover, hold, and then get gone. Evacuate. Don't wait for anyone to tell you. You know what to do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Peter and Jay, for joining us in today's live chat and for the helpful information that you've shared this evening. To our viewers, thank you for joining us this evening. And I do want to apologise for the technical difficulties that we did experience. If I can just be a little jokey, I was trying to do everything on my phone because my phone camera made me look better than my computer camera does. Anyway, we don't really need to talk too much about that today. For all of you watching as well, just to know more about the different hazards in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and learn how to get prepared for an emergency, visit the Get Ready website, which is going to roll across the bottom of our screen. And for information on keeping your home fire safe, have a look at Fire and Emergencies website as well, which is www.fireandemergency.nz. Ka nui te mihi kia korua. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise and your wisdom this evening. It was all very helpful and included a whole lot of stuff that a lot of us wouldn't even think about. So I really appreciate your time. And to everybody watching, thank you once again for being here this evening. We hope this was a super informative session for you all, and we send you on your way with lots of love and lots of safety vibes, getting prepared for these emergencies. Have a great night, everybody, and stay safe. Ka kite!